Hello everybody, thank you for joining my video today. So in today's video we're going to be discussing how to be successful at a medical school interview. Now, just a little bit about me and about the Medicine Guide. I've made quite a few videos now on YouTube, so please have a look at them. I've made videos about how I got into medical school, how to successfully write a personal statement for medicine, what sort of work experience placements are ideal for applying to medicine, how to score highly in the UK CAT, and how to be successful in the pre-clinical years at medical school, so that's years 1 and years 2. So if you enjoyed my video today and if you enjoyed my previous videos, then please give me a thumbs up, hit the like button, subscribe to my YouTube channel, comment in the comment section below, and please share with all of your friends or anyone else that's interested in applying to medicine. So without much further ado, let's get started. So the general outline for today is that I'm going to discuss the different types of interview styles that are used by medical schools, such as panel interviews, group interviews, and multiple mini interviews or MMIs. So normally panel interviews were used traditionally in medicine. Now there's a growing push more towards MMIs. So I would say MMIs and panel interviews are the most common form of interviews at a medical school. MMI interviews are now increasingly popular, but panel interviews are still quite common, so it's important that you're familiar and you're comfortable with both types of interview styles. Now, group interviews, I believe, are going out of fashion. I don't know medical schools that interview using this interview style. I've only really incorporated it in today's video just for completion's sake, but I would say try to focus and prepare yourself for panel interviews and most definitely an MMI. Also, I'll be giving general tips for all types of interview styles, and then I'll be giving focus tips for panel interviews and also focus tips for MMIs. So a panel interview is traditionally involving a selection of different people. So these people could be healthcare professionals such as nurses, GPs or junior doctors, could involve a medical student, could involve somebody from the admissions team at the university or even a university lecturer. So typically there might be 3 to 4 people at a panel, and you'll be sitting on the other side of the table, and they will have a printed out version of your personal statement, and they would have highlighted certain aspects of your personal statement that they find quite interesting and discussion points to really discuss with you. And the most important thing is to remain calm, because when you're at the interview stage, the odds are in your favour. The only real hurdle left for you to jump over is this interview, and hopefully once this interview has gone successfully, you'll get an offer from that medical school and you'll be on your way to achieving your dreams. So like I said, the interview will focus on certain themes, so they might have a script of certain questions that they want to ask, and this will also involve the panel asking you questions on certain aspects of your personal statement that they would have found interesting. So in particular, the majority of the questions will focus upon your work experience and what you've learnt from your placements and how you feel that's enabled you to apply to medicine and why you feel that will help you in your future practice as a medical student and ultimately as a doctor. And this is something that I've discussed in my previous videos, so please have a look at that. So some of the themes that they'll focus on is your interest and your motivation for studying medicine and how you can demonstrate that. Also an awareness of how the medical course is delivered, so this is extremely important. So for each interview that you will be invited to, I would strongly recommend that you look on the university website or look at the notes that you've taken when you visited them during their open day and cast your eyes back on how the teaching style is at the university. Is it a PBL course? Is it an integrated course? Is it a traditional lecture-based course? And really think about the benefits and the benefits of that teaching style and how you feel that you're suited to learning from that teaching style and why you feel that that teaching style will be most beneficial to you. Also, reflection on your work experience, and like I've previously mentioned, that would be the key aspect that they would really focus upon during the interview, because it makes up the main bulk of your personal statement. And also, your work experience is really the only time as a medical school applicant that you get the opportunity to experience what the clinical world is like, and it's really important that you can draw upon your experiences and all the skills that you've learnt and developed during your placement, and you're able to concisely discuss that at interview, because that will really help to differentiate between a very good candidate and a sort of average candidate. And also awareness surrounding ethical issues, because this is something that's very topical. The way that medicine works is that it's an ever-evolving field, so certain topics which would previously be surrounded by a great deal of stigma are topics that we discuss more freely, and therefore they pose quite a great deal of ethical discussion. For instance, abortions wouldn't be a topic that people would have openly spoken about 50 to 100 years ago. However, every day across the medical world, people will be having discussions about abortions. There will be people who are for them, for the choice of an abortion, other people will be against it, and it's important that you're able to weigh up the advantages and disadvantages of any medical issue that's posed to you, and able to critique it and give a concise, balanced conclusion at the end, because that will really help to differentiate you from all other candidates. Okay. So group interviews, like I said, I believe these are going out of fashion. I don't know anyone who's had a group interview. I've only really mentioned it in this video just for completion. So you'll be in a group setting with other students who are applying for medical school and have been invited for interview. So you'll be posed some sort of theme or some sort of topic to discuss amongst yourselves as a group, and the panel will be standing within hearing distance, and they'll be observing how you interact and how you communicate and how you discuss this topic with your colleagues. And then afterwards you will have a panel interview following from this little group discussion. I wouldn't worry too much about group interviews. Like I said, I believe they are going out of fashion. The most common interview nowadays is the MMI, followed by a panel interview. So MMIs, these are used with increasing frequency in all medical schools. So MMIs are also a way of sort of mimicking OSCE stations. So OSCE stations are a form of clinical exams that you will have once you're in medical school, and the style of the OSCEs is something that's been replicated and mimicked by an MMI. So you might find that you're in a corridor and 10 rooms have been booked, and all of the different students who have been invited to interview are standing outside the door, and in front of each door there is a different station, so a different activity that you'll be asked to complete, or perhaps there might be a different topic of discussion for each of the different stations. So each station will have a fixed time limit, so perhaps it's 10 minutes for each of the stations. So you enter into the one station, complete that task for 10 minutes, and then when the timer buzzes you will then move to the next door along the corridor and complete that task for 10 minutes, leave that room, go to the next room, and you can see how this would continue. So that's why I've got the picture in the far right corner to help demonstrate that. But essentially it's a series of different sort of workshop stations, and you've got to perform a task or discuss about a specific topic in each of the different rooms. Okay? So in total, the MMI interview can last for up to 2 hours. It depends on how many stations there are and how long has been assigned for each of the stations. Now, a good thing to keep in mind is that all of the stations will be equally contributing towards your total score for the interview. So even if one MMI station doesn't go particularly well, remain calm, take deep breaths, and remember each station that you go to will be an opportunity for you to have a fresh start. So some of the stations might be focused upon certain themes, like I've mentioned before. So there might be a station where you've got the interviewer observing you delivering bad news to a simulated patient. Now, an important thing is that the simulated patient would have been told to be receptive to the change in the discussion or the change in the direction of the conversation. So if the simulated patient is becoming very, very upset, I would prioritise trying to reassure that patient, trying to explore their concerns and expectations, and really trying to focus on that, and then try to deliver the bad news in a very empathetic way. Because in this station, they're not necessarily assessing you on your delivery, they're assessing you on your communication skills, how you're interacting with the simulated patient, have you developed a rapport with that patient. Because in medicine, you may be delivering bad news, but what's important is that a patient will not necessarily remember the information that you gave them, but they will definitely remember how you interacted with them. So for this particular station, if it does come up for you, I would say interaction is key. So making sure that you're understanding and identifying what the patient's concerns are, trying to understand what their expectations are, reassuring them if you can, trying to be as empathetic as possible, because those are the skills that they're really focusing on. So discussing an ethical scenario. So for this, it's important to be aware of the advantages and disadvantages of the posed topic or theme, and then give a balanced conclusion at the end, because you want to demonstrate to the interviewer that you can weigh up and evaluate both sides of an argument and then come to an informed decision. Okay? They might ask you to analyse any data and then discuss this. And finally, they might ask you to discuss a specific topic. So they might ask you to discuss your opinion on a recent health advance in the news, any sort of recent technological advances which has helped to improve medicine, for example. Okay, I would say that MMI interviews are a better reflection of a candidate than a panel interview, and because you're going to be assessed usually by one person, or sometimes there might be two, then it allows the interviewer to give a truer score of your abilities, and also because it's going to take into consideration the opinions of up to 10 members of staff. For instance, if you've got 10 MMI stations, then it also allows a greater and a truer reflection of your ability, because there's less, I would say there's a less degree for bias compared to a panel interview. So if you've got a multiple mini interview, I would say that this is the better interview out of the two. Okay, so general top tips for all medical school interviews. So these are the resources that I would recommend for all interviews. So regardless of whether you have a panel interview or an MMI interview or even a group interview, I would say that this is really the Bible of all the different resources that you're going to use. So firstly, on the far left, the medical school interviews book. I used it for my medical school interview. I thought it was really helpful. I think nearly all medical students who are at university have used this book. It's a very, very good book. I can't recommend it any strongly than this. I think you can find it on eBay or Amazon at a slightly more accommodating price, but it's very, very good, and I would strongly recommend that you make a small purchase. Secondly, please keep up to date with BBC Health. It's really important because, like you said, they might ask you a question where they want you to discuss any interesting or new topics that are current in terms of the world of health. So if you're making sure that you're constantly reading about health news in local media, then this will help you to come across as better informed. It will also show the interviewer that you have a genuine interest for medicine if you're taking the time out to read about the health news. So it's really important. Also, I know I've mentioned this in every single video so far, but it's really, really important. Tomorrow's Doctors and Good Medical Practice. You can download it as a PDF straight from the GMC website. You can also download it as a PDF when you search in the Google search bar. It's really, really important because these two documents will help you discuss your views in terms of ethical arguments, and also really drawing upon and reflecting upon your work experience placements with greater clarity, and you'll be able to do so with greater confidence. So I would definitely recommend reading Good Medical Practice and Tomorrow's Doctors. So top tips for panel interviews. I know it sounds a little bit silly, but maintaining eye contact. I had a panel interview, so I was interviewed by 3 other people, and it can be quite nerve-wracking at an interview to maintain eye contact, and especially if there are 3 people looking at you. So what I would suggest is that the individual who asks you the question, so initially look at them and start talking about the topic, but then as you're developing your argument and you're talking with a little bit more detail, make sure that you glance into the eyes and maintain eye contact with the other people on the panel, because what you want to do is answer the question with as much confidence as you can, but also try to demonstrate that you are naturally, despite how nervous you're feeling, that you are naturally quite a confident person. And the best way to do that is through your body language. So if you're maintaining eye contact with every single member of the panel, and as often as you can, then it demonstrates to them that you are someone who is confident, and you are someone who is able to work effectively under a pressurized situation. So an interview is quite a stressful and highly pressurized situation, and going forward there will be times in medicine when you're working as a future doctor where the situation will be very highly pressurized, and they're looking for people who can cope under pressure. So I know it sounds a little bit silly, but maintaining eye contact helps you to appear a little bit more polished, helps you to appear a bit more confident, and it will help you in the long stead in getting that place at medical school. So like I said, panel interviews tend to be focused primarily on your personal statement, so please go through your personal statement with a fine-tooth comb and really focus on what sort of questions you'll be asked. For instance, really focus on your work experience paragraph. Think about all the different places that you've mentioned on your work experience and what sort of skills you've demonstrated, and put yourself in the interviewer's shoes and think, what would they possibly ask you about this sort of placement? Okay? And I know I've mentioned this previously, but please evaluate the ethical issue that has been posed to you, and make sure that you mention arguments for each side of the ethical issues. So for instance, if we're talking about abortions, make sure that you discuss the opinions of people who are pro-choice and pro-abortions, and similarly also share the views of people who who are against abortions. So after discussing both aspects of the ethical issue, ensure that you give a balanced conclusion at the end. That's really important because you want to demonstrate to the panel that you can appreciate both sides of an argument and then come to a justified conclusion. But I would say for medical school interview, I think it would come across better if it's a balanced conclusion. Okay, so top tips for MMIs, like I said, an MMI I think works in your favour as opposed to a panel interview. So research as much information as you can about the MMI. So prior to your interview, perhaps the medical school will send out a letter detailing of the number of stations they have, how long you will have in each station, and they might give a brief summary about what sort of skills and attributes that they're hoping to assess on each of the station. So once you've got information like that, then hopefully you can sit down and discuss it with your family members and think about the possible stations that might come up, and also how you would go about addressing some of those skills that they're potentially assessing for. So for instance, if they are looking for individuals who are able to communicate effectively with other people, then again the breaking bad news simulation would be quite an effective way of assessing that. So really reflect on how you would go about undertaking a task like that and what you can do to prepare yourself for it. So just remain calm if the previous station didn't go to plan, because at the end of the day, once all 10 interviewers have given you a score, all of that information will be added up, collected together, and then the university will set a threshold for what the acceptable score is to move on to the next stage and receive an offer. So if your previous station did not go to plan, don't worry, take deep breaths, count to 10 in your head, and walk into the next station with a smile on your face. Okay? So I know I've mentioned this before, so be familiar with your personal statement. They might have one station just focused upon discussing your personal statement and your work experience, and again the interviewers will have access to your personal statement, and most likely they would have highlighted certain aspects of your personal statement that they find interesting and would like you to develop a little bit more in person. You might also have an MMI station where you might have to rank some of the qualities that a doctor has in terms of most important to least important. So make sure that you're aware of what you think are some of the most important qualities that a doctor needs to have, and again make sure that this is in par with good medical practice and tomorrow's doctors, and be prepared to be able to argue your point across and explain why you think that skill X is more important than skill Y. Okay, so these are the references that I've used, but the message that I wanted to leave you with today is talent will get you in the door, but character will keep you in the room. And I think that's really important in terms of looking at medical school interviews. So there might be hundreds of people who've got very good UK CAT scores, exceptional personal statements, brilliant grades at GCSE and A-level. However, the manner in which you come across at an interview will determine whether or not you will be offered a place at medical school, because your interview is really your last hurdle, and at that stage the odds are usually in your favour, because they will have filtered down all the applicants and they've only got a small number of interview invites which they've given out, and a certain number of offers that they will also give. So as you can see, you've already jumped through a lot of the obstacles, so this is only the last hurdle that you've got left, and the odds are usually in your favour when you're at the interview stage. Okay, so thank you for listening. If you enjoy my video today, and if you've enjoyed my previous video, please hit the like button, subscribe to my YouTube channel, comment in the comment section below, let me know how your interview has gone. If there's anything that you feel that's missing from this video and you'd like me to add on, please let me know. But I wish you all the best and good luck.